So as I was looking through my games today trying to figure out what I wanted to play, I had noticed a game that I had almost forgotten about completely, and that's Astal on the Sega Saturn. Now, because where I keep my Saturn games, this game was sitting all the way on the edge, kind of hidden behind my TV, and the thing is too, the spine, the edge of the game on the case, doesn't even have the name. It doesn't have the name of the game, it's just like a blank title card, sort of. So I pulled it out and I was like, oh wow, I forgot I had this game, I heard it's pretty good. And I popped it in and I was totally blown away. This game, I can't believe I've had this sitting there. I've had it for about maybe 2 years now, and I never played it. I just never got around to it, and boy am I glad I did. And if you can't tell by now, this is a traditional 2D side-scrolling platformer, but what really sets this one apart from other platformers is its pacing, its graphical style, and its combat. I'll start with the graphics though, because that's what really caught my attention and what really stands out in this game for me. They kind of look like a watercolor painting come to life. There's a lot of detail, and they make really good use of foreground and background elements. So as you see while I play the game, you'll see that they kind of put objects in the front of the screen and in the back and scrolling backgrounds, and they'll scale the camera in and out every now and then to kind of give the sense of scale, and it works really well. A lot of platformers never really took advantage of that. The use of color in this game too, by the way, is really beautiful. I mean, if you think it looks good on YouTube here, seeing it in person is like 10 times as good, because the colors on here are a little bit washed out, but trust me, I mean, some of the levels are just gorgeous to look at. And now for the combat element of Astal, which is also very well done. And unlike most platformer games where, you know, you're just jumping on the heads of the enemies to kill them and move on, Astal gives you many different ways to dispose of them or make use of them to make it to other platforms that you normally wouldn't be able to. Because if you jump on the heads of enemies, it'll stun them, or if you jump on them, it'll also give you an extra boost, so you can kind of use it like a double jump to reach platforms that you normally would have never been able to reach. But the most typical way to deal with enemies is to simply just grab them and throw them. Now you can grab an enemy on the ground and toss them forward and kill enemies that were lined up, or you can actually kind of chain link them, where if there's a couple of enemies in the air and you pound one of them flying into the ground, it'll chain onto the other enemies and kill them as well, and it's pretty satisfying when that happens. Astal can also pound the ground. He can take in a big gust of air and blow it out, which kind of deals with any enemies that are on fire to put out their flames. Or if there's a group of enemies coming at you that you simply just can't deal with, you can blow a gust of wind at them and it'll shoo them all away. It's very convenient. Astal can also pick up very large objects like trees and boulders and use them to throw at enemies or use it as a shield from projectiles. But perhaps the biggest thing that really sets this apart from other platformers is the addition of your little bird friend there. And if you actually have two controllers, a second player can control the bird, and it's just like having a second character on screen. However, if you're playing by yourself, you can still definitely take advantage of the bird as sort of like a support character. Now, you can't just abuse him. There is a meter that kind of determines how much of his powers you can use. It's on the bottom center of the screen there. It's the purple gauge that fills up by defeating certain enemies that kind of have like a glow around them. Now, you can use the bird to actually go and find you items that will replenish your health. He can even sometimes he'll even bring you back 1-ups, so you get extra continues. He can also attack all enemies on the screen for you, or in certain circumstances he can sort of use like a special ability during bosses that will do something unique and special for that area of the game. So when you bring all these different combat elements together, it keeps the game fresh, you know. Between your powers with Astal and the bird's powers, there's so many different ways that you can deal with enemies that it kind of keeps the game fresh. It doesn't get that repetitive. And it's still pretty challenging, you know, despite having the ability to have your bird bring you food and replenish your health. The game still does have some tricky parts to it. I found myself dying and continuing quite a few times. And now for the game's pacing, which is also very well paced, because the levels themselves aren't too long, they aren't too short. They'll generally take anywhere from 5 to 10 minutes, depending upon if you die or not. And there's plenty of boss battles thrown in there, and the levels are very varied, so it's like the game is constantly changing. It's, once again, keeping it fresh, which is very important with platformer games, because, you know, you definitely don't want them getting boring and repetitive, and that's definitely something that Astal is not. It has a great visual style, great combat element, and a great pacing to it, so it keeps it flowing, and it's a great game. Definitely though, if you have a Saturn and you're into the platformer genre, this is a must-own. I'm really happy that I finally got around to playing it. It's a great game. It's not even that uncommon, you know. You can definitely get this online anywhere from $10 to $20 complete, and I would definitely recommend it for that. You know, it's a great game, and I hope you guys get around to trying it out sometime and giving it a play.